This is it. I'm doing what no person should dare to do. Interact with Persona on the internet. This seals my fate to see the same discourse brought up every week on twitter.com for the rest of time. But the Persona games themselves that I've played, 3, 4 and 5, are all really good. Maybe it's the sunken cost fallacy speaking, but it's one of my favorite gaming franchises of all time. That doesn't mean I don't have problems with the games. Yes, you can criticize something you like. Which is what this video is. Critiquing and solving a complaint I've never really heard from anyone else. So what is this problem then? Well, my main issue with the Persona gameplay cycle is that when you reach a certain point, it becomes really repetitive. You complete the dungeon in a day, and then you spend a month interacting with like 2 social links, and when they're not available, you skip the day over and over again. This was most apparent when I played Reload with the absurd amount of vacation days without links in that game, but it's still an issue in the other Neozonas. Tip for you if you haven't played P3R yet. Never spend time with a Hierophant, Moon, Hermit, Hanged Man or Star if other links are available. You'll have a ludicrous amount of time where only they are available. Anyway, the reason this becomes an issue is partly because it becomes a slog, but less so in 3's case and more so in 5's, you feel like you're missing out on side content. Persona 3 is much more streamlined, so even though you may feel like Sisyphus at times, you won't get gatekept out of side content by the game itself. Which is what happens in 5. There's no real incentive to do the fishing or the baseball minigames, and you're actively punished if you do so. There's no guarantee you'll finish all confidants if you waste your precious time slots. The only one you'll do is darts, because it's ridiculously overpowered. There's of course the less minigame focused activities, or as I like to call them, LCTTOOANABIDRESPATTITSET, or let's check this thing out once and never again, because it doesn't reward enough stat points and the text box is the same every time. Like, why on God's green earth would I ever donate 10,000 yen at the shrine in Reload for some knowledge points? In every game, you find the best one for each stat really quickly and abuse it for the duration of the early and mid game. But then the stats are maxed out, and those time slots without social links just become dead air, which only makes the boulder heavier. So how do I propose that the games fix this? It's simple, just rehaul the gameplay loop for half the game. What would fill the holes that I pointed out is a feature with an incentive behind it, it's actually fun to break out the monotony, and that doesn't run out. Oh, and it would also be nice if it fit in with the franchise. The daily life parts of modern Persona games have 2 key components, social stats and social links. But I say to add a third, some sort of fun meter. I know it sounds corny, but I think it's actually a pretty elegant solution for this problem. So how exactly does it work? Basically, if you put your character through too much strain, the bar would empty. Treat them, or I guess yourself, well, and it would fill, and you'd be punished and rewarded accordingly. Rush through an entire dungeon in a day, the bar would take a big hit. Do one of the non-social link hangouts, now it looks better. Repeat the same activities over and over, that isn't fun. Go play some arcade games or fish. You could even tie it in with the stat and link activities. Studying could reward more knowledge points than reading a book, but it's also less fun. If the friend you're hanging out with is going through something traumatic, of course you, the empath that you are, would feel bad too. Do you see the potential for how much strategy could be implemented here? Which social link should I go for first? The depressed guy with better confidant abilities, or the happy-go-lucky girl with the worse ones? I could eat the same beef bowl for a week straight to max out my courage, but joining a school club might be more fun. The possibilities are endless. It would also work on a character level. I don't like silent protagonists, but I know it's something this franchise needs to function in the slightest. Makoto, Yu, and Joker Persona 5 are all fun characters when they actually get to express themselves, which doesn't happen a lot in-game. Sure, Atlus has become better at giving subtle characterization over time. Just look at Joker's animations in the real world compared to the metaverse. But at the same time, the protags can come off as cold-hearted machines that are only vessels for the player, which can hurt the story at times. I won't spoil anything, but I felt that I didn't care as much as I was supposed to during the climatic moments of Persona 3 because I didn't know the main character well enough. Sure, I cared about the relationships with other characters, but in my mind, Makoto Yuki has no real wants or needs of his own. Which maybe, just maybe, this feature could help alleviate. A long shot, I know, but you miss all the shots you don't take, as they say. But for the player to even bother with this system, you need to throw them a bone as well as beat them with hammers. I don't really know how to balance this appropriately, but I'll give some examples for rewards and punishments. A full meter could reward you with extra stat points while doing activities, unlock extra dialogue options for social links, SP or stat boosts in whatever the other world would be called in this hypothetical game, increase the rates for rare shadows, crit rate or whatever else you wanted to mix this feature with. An empty meter would be really bad. On top of the opposites of the just mentioned ideas, you could be locked out of progressing social links because everyone thinks you're too much of a bummer to be around, randomly skip entire time slots because you're too depressed to get out of bed, and the worst of all, a slightly slower walk speed. But maybe there would be a social link only accessible if you were sad enough, an edgy loner that wouldn't talk to you if you were too cheery. Maybe the fun meter would make the game too complicated. I'm no game design expert, but as it is, the gameplay is maybe a smidge too simple. Of course the game would have to be balanced around this from the ground up. You couldn't tack this onto an existing Neosona because the time slots wouldn't be enough. Maybe the social stats would have to be made easier to rank up, maybe February or March could be utilized for once, or maybe the protagonist could get up before noon on his days off to get another time slot. And also, this hypothetical Persona game, your Persona Q if you wait, that already exists. Your Persona K, if you will, would have much more minigames than the previous entries in the series to make the fun meter, well, fun. I've never played Yakuza, but those games have a shit ton of that stuff, right? Think stuff like in those games. That's enough about that. I have some other ideas for social link and story related stuff, but since I'm an awful writer, I'll spare you the suffering. So what do you think? Will this be fun, or am I alone in this? Comment your thoughts down below, I'm interested in some feedback. Please don't be too mean though. It would also boost this video's engagement and potentially make me money. Yeah, money!